What is up? It is Monday, September 14th. We are your allies behind enemy lines. Ryan and Joey coming at you with the latest and greatest up-to-date news on the Washington football team. I'll tell you what, Joey, this Monday, lights are a little brighter. My coffee tasted a little sweeter, and everything just seems so perfect in this world right now. As we sit here right now, not a care in the world, not a worry in the world. I don't know about you.
It's got that Monday walk into work, into virtual work feeling of a victory, 1-0. We haven't had this feeling in so long. I don't remember the last time we won on opening day. I can't. It's been so long. So it's a great feeling. It's a great feeling to start off, because it feels like when you're 0-1, you're always chasing to get back to 500. And
Yeah.
so starting off 1-0, oh my goodness. Yes, Washington football nation, we have a victory. We have a team.
Indeed we do. Indeed we do. We started off, it was a little shaky. I'll be honest with you. I was ready to jump the boat, and I think you were too, just when we were texting. It was like the end of the first quarter, we're like, well, we stink. Let's see what draft pick we can get this year. Top five
Exactly.
draft pick.
Here we go
Um,
again. Is that feeling I think a lot of us probably had? Is here
uh,
we go again. We've seen this team before, and
oh yeah, 100%. I totally agree. I had a guy message me on Facebook. He we don't like talk regularly. Actually, I know him through flag football, and he's messaged me on Facebook and was like, "We suck." He goes, "I'm turning this game off," and I was like, "Yep, it's about getting to that point." And then he texted me later and was like, "Holy crap, what happened? I didn't even see it." And I was like, "Yeah, no, it was crazy." But I think everyone was. It was like new. We had this new team name, new regime, new head coach. But guess what? It was the same old, same old. Stupid
hmm
penalties. Couldn't get the ball moving. Have one good play and then the next two or three stall out. So then we're punting. Big play, giving up big plays down the field. Again, it just seemed like the same old. And we just got off to a very, very rocky start. And then we went into halftime, and I don't know what happened. You know what I mean? I don't know what happened, but we came out a completely different team, and it was amazing to see.
It was amazing to see. One thing I did, I don't know if you'd heard or the news broke. I hit it on the morning show this morning, but one thing that really happened at halftime was I know for one, as we've been told that Ron Rivera is battling cancer this year, and he did have to get a treatment at halftime to make sure that
Oh
he
wow.
was 100%. Just to make sure that he had enough energy to be Ron is basically what I heard.
Yeah.
For the second half, but that being said, he was in the other room, and our new quarterback, Dwayne Haskins, took the speech time and took up and riled the troops and gave a really what I heard was a heartfelt speech. And this is not us. We don't have to be this identity anymore. We can be whatever we want to be. This is our house type speech, and really rally the troops up. And they came out of different teams. So hats off to that that young quarterback to be able to recognize that they needed that. A lot of players probably needed that. Being so early in the season, you don't really have a lot of confidence. You don't really have an identity. A lot of guys' first NFL game, no preseason things to lean off of. So, hats off to that team for and to the leaders of that team to not like I said, wanting to we wanted to bail ship, and they didn't. They took the lumps and kept on fighting, and came out with the victory.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, I did hear about that, the halftime speech that Dwayne Haskins gave, and we knew that leadership mentality was in him. We saw it last year. We've talked about that video where he's over at the offensive lineman, like saying, "Hey, how can I help you? Like, help me, help you, so we can, kind of help each other win this game." And then we saw him at the game yesterday. He goes over and he's high fiving the defensive lineman because they just absolutely ate up Carson Wentz. We'll get to that in a second. But I mean, just from the start, first drive goes 3-and-out, and it's like, oh, all right, whatever. No preseason, first time live action against another team. Okay, we'll see how it goes. And then the Eagles just marched right down the field and put it right up our butts and score a touchdown. I mean, it was just without any hesitation. We had a couple false
Uncontested
starts.
catches, uncontested
Yeah,
catches.
wide, like I said, wide open. Deshaun Jackson got his one catch and then pulled his hamstring like he does every single game. So some reason he went on Twitter and said he wasn't injured, even though we saw him stretching and kind of walking it out. But that's besides the point. But yeah, I mean, it's just the first two quarters. I mean, I'd say the first quarter and a half. It was ugly. It was what we've been used to. It was here we go again. Dustin Hopkins missing a 48-yard, or excuse me, a 38-yard field goal, I believe it was.
No, no, 48. It was a 48
Was it
yarder.
48? Okay, was it
Mm-hmm.
48-yard? Yeah, missing a 48-yard field goal, like never had a chance off his foot. And you're just like, man, if we just could put something together here, we're in this thing. And lucky enough for us, that first half, the score did not dictate the way that game was going. I mean, the Eagles were absolutely just moving the ball up and down, no problem. I say no problem. We still had a ton of pressure on Carson Wentz. We got to him a couple times, but then they would just erase it with one or two plays, and it was just back to square one. Or we jump off sides and make a 3rd and 7, a 3rd and 2. Or we had that Landon Collins personal foul penalty that gave him a 15-yard penalty and automatic first down. It was just like stupid thing after stupid thing.
The Troy Apke penalty. He got one as well.
Yeah, the hitting with his helmet penalty. I mean, it's just like, man, what is going on here? And luckily we get a score before half to make it 17-7. So it was like, okay, not bad. And then we come out and just like we said, look like a completely different team. That front 4, front 7. Everything is advertised. Now, I will say, obviously, the Eagles' offensive line was a little, pieced together. Decimated. And it was only getting worse for them as the game went on. But, I mean, hey, when that happens, you got to take advantage of it. And that's exactly what we did.
You win the games you're supposed to win. You win the battles you're supposed to win. And like you said, that front 7, they ate. I mean, and I heard Nate Burleson, or I think it was on the Good Morning Madden show, say this morning, and if it wasn't Carson Wentz back there, who has the looseness, they probably would have had 12 and 13 sacks because they were all over them. They were all over him. And like you said, John Bostic on that blitz. When was the last time we saw a blitzing linebacker actually make contact? It just feels like
free runner,
a free runner. Exactly. We haven't seen that in so long. And not to mention the pressure. We got 8 sacks, but the pressure. H.B. Kerrigan getting those 2 big sacks. To push him to the 92 sacks overall. Forced fumble there. He had a great game, for someone who didn't start. Someone who easily could have just, took a back seat and be like, all right, well, these kids are taking over. No, he still shows he's a force to reckon with. Now that you have people around him, he shows what he can do when he has other people there to worry about. So, I mean, it felt like a Harlem Globetrotters of defensive linemen there because it was just one after another. Montez Sweat got one. Ioannidis got one. Jonathan Allen got one. It was Chase Young got 1.5. They're giving him
1.5. Yeah.
And Ryan Kerrigan got 2. It was just a feast on Carson Wentz. Exactly what we predicted, and exactly what came out. Just had those rough spots in the beginning, but other than they were a little, like you said, a little bit trigger happy there in the beginning of those false starts, and I think they were so hungry. Things that would have probably been snuffed out in preseason games. But other than that defense was insane for all aspects.
It absolutely was. And, they had mentioned it during the broadcast, and they had mentioned this in a couple broadcasts that I was watching, and they were saying the fact that there were no fans, that hard count becomes really effective. You know what I mean? We saw that. We saw that happen. Not only the Washington football team jumping off sides, but the Eagles did it a couple times too. I saw it in the Cowboys-Rams game at night. Like, I saw it across the NFL. That happened quite a bit. Now, speaking of fans not being in the stands, I think in this case, that absolutely helped Washington because we get down 17-0. What happens? The Boo Birds come out. Everyone's jumping ship like we were sitting at home, and the energy just gets sucked out of that building right away when we have all this hype and all this excitement ready to come out. I think that actually played a big factor for Washington and ended up helping us in the end because we were able to just kind of just focus on what's going on and not worry about what's going on in the stands, just what was going on in the field. And so, with young talent like we have, that could affect them. You hear the Boo Birds come out. When the cheers are louder for the visiting team than they are for you, that'll get to you real easy. So I think that actually helped Washington in a sense. So getting back to the sack numbers, all 6 of our front, of our rotation of those front 4 got a sack. Ioannidis had 1.5, Chase Young 1.5, Jonathan Allen got half of 1, Kerrigan got 2, Sweat got 1, and Deron Payne got half of 1, and then that other one to John Bostic. So I mean, are you kidding me? We have 6 guys that rotate in and out to those 4 spots, and every single one of them got a sack. Unreal. I mean, you don't see that anywhere. I would have been happy if we had. I think 3 or 4 sacks is a great game, but 8 sacks as a team, fantastic. Obviously, we can't go without mentioning
forced fumble.
Yeah,
I mean,
2 forced fumbles, and they got 1 back. We recovered 1. We have to obviously talk about the interceptions that we had too with Jimmy Moreland and Fabian Moreau, and Moreland could have had another one. There was a pass. I forget who the linebacker was, but it went right through his hands, and
Uh-huh.
almost went right into Jimmy Moreland's hands. And so we
Pierre
could have had a
Lewis.
third
It was
one.
Pierre or
Yeah, it was
Kevin?
Pierre Lewis.
Pierre
Yeah,
Lewis,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Which he played great too. A guy coming out nobody had really known or heard of up to this point. So I mean, the defense definitely set the tone. The first interception absolutely set the tone, and gave us short field. But that's what we need. Again, you like you said, you got to win the battles that you need to win or that you should win, and that's exactly what we did. We turned the ball over or get the turnovers in their territory. Give our offense a short field. The less we have to do, the better. And I think once we started working in a rhythm, both of us said, once Dwayne started working that tempo offense and getting in a rhythm, things were really, really humming there.
And you said, in the first half, obviously on those first couple drives, the 3-and-outs, really weren't doing much, but they really weren't making a lot of mistakes. That's the good part too. He wasn't throwing picks, they weren't fumbling, they just weren't getting a lot of yards. And then that one, that one drive where we strung together a couple first downs, and then you said, like we said, missed the Dustin Hopkins field goal. It seemed like our offense was slowly starting to get like an identity. I think I had sent you a text about it. It was when they pounded it with Peyton Barber. And they brought the beefcake. Peyton, and it's funny, I said that. Remember, I sent you the text immediately. And what did Kyle Brandt use him as a nickname? The first thing he did, the first time he talked about his touchdown this morning, he called him
The
Peyton,
beefcake.
Peyton the Barber Beefcake. Just, so he said the way, but I think his name should be the Beefcake Barber. I think that's a good take on that. Peyton the Beefcake Barber. He is our only beefcake we have back there.
Yeah.
As far as someone that can really pound that ball, and he showed it. And when it got close to those 4th and 1s, and showing that on that 4th and 1, that sweep to the outside or that stretch play, where it was a toss. He did a little toss to the outside, and he got that 4th and 1. We were close, and that was so crucial, to keeping that drive alive, and then pounded it in 2 days. I think 1 or 2 plays later. I think Peyton Barber only had 17 yards, I think, rushing, but they were all 17 yards that were, highly needed. And it's something that we've talked about so many times. It's not the stats. It's about coming and playing and playing good when you need to play good. About making those field goals. Dustin Hopkins missed the one early, but he made it when we wanted to go up 2 scores. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about Peyton Barber getting 100 yards. We're talking about him getting that 4th and 1. Those 3rd and 1s that we needed out of him. Dwayne Haskins, that last drive when we're running that clock, I think we had a 6-minute drive there to get to go up 7, or it was at that end of that 3rd quarter. And the way and into the 4th, the way he made those 3rd down throws, just enough to get the sticks moving. I was so impressed about just, again, you can look at the stats all day and they might tell you a story, but looking at how the individual situations throughout that game, stepping up big, Peyton Barber, Dwayne Haskins, that defensive line, those cornerbacks all made a big impact yesterday.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like you said, it wasn't the big plays or wasn't, the flashy numbers. It was just a smart right play sometimes. He went 17 for 31. Dwayne Haskins did passing the ball. So, a lot of inaccuracies there, but I think, we just chalk it up to week 1 stuff. Hopefully that stuff smooths itself out and works itself out as we get into the season. He did overthrow a lot of guys, and they've said whenever he misses high, he misses long. So, when you're thrown in the middle of the field, you obviously got to be worried about that. But I agree. Peyton Barber, he actually had 17 carries, 29 yards. So they were hard fought yards. But like you said, they were exactly what we needed. And if we get into that situation where we just need to bleed the clock and get to the end of the game, he's definitely going to be that guy. Staying on the run game, I liked what we saw out of Antonio Gibson. Only rushed the ball 9 times, but got 36 yards. Got stuffed a couple times, but also broke off quite a few runs. Caught the ball a couple times out of the backfield. Made a guy miss or two, once or twice. You know what I mean? So I think if we would have stuck with him and gave him 5, 6, 7, 8 more carries, he really could have. I think he's going to be a home run guy. You know what I mean? Where if he sees a hole, he's going to be gone.
That one play where I don't know if he got a toss or it was a run where he cut to the outside and he tripped over Scary Terry's feet. If he did not trip right there, he was going to be gone because there was nobody in that secondary. Everybody was playing close, and they'd already rushed the line. So if he wouldn't have lost his footing right there, it would have been one of those home runs. So I know they're there. It's just why it's like watching those big leaguers. I know you're a big baseball guy. I'm not. But when they crack one and it just barely goes outside the foul line, you're like, oh, I know that power's there. But as soon as he straightens that out, we're gonna be in trouble. But I think the same thing with Antonio Gibson. As soon as he straightens that out, we're gonna have some home runs on our hands.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I agree. Like I said, I hope we get him involved a little bit more in the game, in the run game, and give him a few more chances, handing the ball off. But I think the way that we did it, where like I said, Peyton Barber he was the one that bled the clock there at the end. I think that was perfect. I wasn't upset with it at all. I think that's exactly what we need to do. My fantasy team was a little upset, but I wasn't. One guy that we got involved and seemed to have some good chemistry with Dwayne Haskins was Logan Thomas. Obviously he has the wide open touchdown in the end zone where he just went completely uncovered. There's a couple big time plays. I think a couple third down plays where he finds him open and he made the correct pass, made the correct read, and got it to him. And so it was good to see that. Obviously, Scary Terry, we know it's there. The chemistry and all that. So nothing lost there. I would like to see him targeted a couple more times. Only targeted 7 times. He caught the ball 5 times out of that. But all in all, not bad from what we saw on the offensive side of the ball. Like I said, some things were going to get worked out. Not too bad. Not great. But hey, a win's a win, and especially for a team like this. Any W we can absolutely take, we will.
We'll definitely take, and and just the fact that you can fight back when you're down 17-0. Anyone that's ever played any type of sport or any type of game or who's competed knows the feeling you get when it feels like the odds have been stacked against you. Things aren't going your way. The score is, obviously telling the tale. And you can make a choice right there, whether just, we can just kind of go out there and see what we can do, see if we can piece together some good, plays. Or you can say, we can still win this game. And I'm glad they did the latter because they really went out there and fought. And, I can never been more proud, to be a Washington football team fan than it felt yesterday in recent memory. To see, not only to have the win on opening day, but like I just said, to be able to overcome such a large deficit, to come back and fight. And, to start the season off 1-0. I think Kyle Brandt said it again. I'm going to keep quoting those guys all the time because I do watch that show all the time. But he said it best this morning. We're going to start calling them the Washington first place team.
That's right. He must have read my tweet. I tweeted that yesterday. The Washington first place football team. That's what we are. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the Giants still got to play tonight, but I don't think things are going to fare too well for them with the Steelers. So obviously, we saw the Cowboys drop a tough one to the Rams. Hey, for at least 1 week, we're going to be in sole possession of first place. Can't remember the last time that happened. We're going to be undefeated. Can't remember the last time that was the case. You can call us losers for celebrating that week 1. But guess what? Suck it. I don't care.
It's all about the small victories. You know what? We piece together small, but just like we said in our season preview, we take this 1 week at a time. There's no telling what can happen. 1 week at a time. And right now, we won this week. So on to the next week. And, we're going to talk about that in our preview episode, on Friday. But let's take these days to enjoy and and actually not we don't have to go and rub it in anyone's faces because, again, we knew what we had. We don't need to act shocked. We knew what we had. If we played to our potential, which we did in the second half, or just a fraction of our potential, then we're going to have ourselves, a successful season one way or another.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, successful is a moving kind of target, but I think we all have a good sense of our mind of what we would consider successful and what we wouldn't. But yeah, no, I totally agree. Just got to take it week by week, play by play, game by game, and see what happens. Now, the 1 weak spot, I would say, as we kind of wrap things up, start looking, towards our preview show was Dallas Goedert ate us up, and the tight ends, not so much Zach Ertz, but I mean. Dallas Goedert, he had 8 catches for 101 yards. Obviously, he had that big touchdown, but he had 8 catches on 9 targets. So, as good as that front 7 is, I think they're going to need some help in coverage. I don't know if we switch to a base nickel defense. Obviously, that was tough this week because Kendall Fuller's out, to where we just have 2 linebackers and 3 corners. I think that might be, a little bit better, especially when we have a team like the Eagles, where those tight ends were their primary receivers. Jalen Reagor, beat us once for a big play, 1 catch for 55 yards. But going into it, I think we kind of knew that Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz were probably going to be the majority of the catch or of the targets here. So, obviously you always lose something, especially in today's NFL with these bigger, stronger, faster tight ends, where you either give up some size with covering them with a corner or lose up some speed covering them with a linebacker. And there's a couple times we covered him with the linebacker, and he was burnt toast all day long. So I think if we have something that we really need to focus on and something that we need to address, it would be that. And especially next week when we got, it's not tight end, but that secondary, we got to make sure we lock down Nuke Hopkins because he absolutely torched San Francisco, who has, Richard Sherman and a pretty decent secondary. It's going to
A
be.
Super Bowl defense, right? They have a Super Bowl defense, and I think someone talked about how they thought that team was going to take a step back this year in our preview show, but I won't go into that too much.
Indeed, you did. Indeed, you did. Yeah. So I might be pumping the brakes a little bit on my 3-0 prediction. We'll see how that goes. But hey, like you said, we'll enjoy the sweet victory. It was great. I was floored with how well that defense played. I mean, Montez Sweat, he's still young. This is what his third year in the league.
Second year.
Second year in the league. Obviously, Chase Young, best player in the draft last year. Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen, even Matt Ioannidis. I love that they shouted out Matt Ioannidis too. During the broadcast, they said, "Look, you have 5 first-round picks on this defensive line, but guess what? Probably the best guy is Matt Ioannidis." And who said that? You heard that right here just last week or 2 weeks ago. We said the exact same thing, where he is so underrated. He's just so strong and just an absolute bully. One thing I wanted to mention too was there was quite a few times where pressure would either be coming from up the middle or from the side and would make Carson Wentz step up. Well, guess what he was stepping up into? He was just stepping up right into a sack. I mean, guys were filling holes. If you were making them step up, the secondary wave was right there. And, it's been great. It was great to see. And I'm so excited. I hope it keeps going. Next week, we have another light offensive line to work with, a little bit more of an athletic, quick quarterback. We'll see how that plays into our favor. But as long as, I think 8 sacks, expecting 8 sacks a game is ridiculous. Like I said, if we can get that 3, 4, even 5 is high, but that 3 to 4 range, we're gonna be living right.
You're talking NFL history if you're talking 8 sacks a game. So even 5 sacks a game I think is the highest, I think, close to ever. But it's gonna be interesting to see how you said how they adjust to different types of offenses. But I like what you said about the tight ends. You know what I mean, and how we should have had a better understanding that's exactly what Carson Wentz was going to do. And why we didn't. It seemed like Landon Collins was playing very close to the line. A lot during the game because he shot a lot of those screens in the backfield and whatnot. And they might have been keying in more on planning more for Miles Sanders to be there and having more of a him cover running back. So I think just knowing that moving forward, I think Landon Collins is someone that's got to be covering some of these tight ends when it comes to this, some of these, when they have like we talk about more. Not every team's going to have that. Not every team's going to have this dual tight end or these real athletic tight ends. I don't even remember who. The Cardinals tight end is, so I don't know if you're going to be dealing with tight end problems this week. But when you have when you have multiple receiving targets basically on offense that are threats and good route runners, you got to make sure that we're pairing them up properly and then we're signing them off and they're communicating that secondary. And I think they really started to do great in the end because it seemed like they were like almost predicting every play. It was like the awareness on the defense just completely rose, not just on the defensive line. I think it was due to the pressure. Then they were able to play up a little bit, but it was just amazing to watch them. It's like they could the Eagles when they were trying, they could not even get. I think 2 drives in a row they didn't even gain a yard. In the second half, and it was like minus 16 yards in 2 drives. So it was wonderful to see that defense. We can say a lot about their line was beat up. They were missing their running back. They're missing a wide receiver. But who's not playing without? We were playing without Kendall Fuller. You know what I mean? Playing without wide receiver. We were playing without a cornerback. We're playing out of the secondary. And I saw Jason Peters, all-pro left tackle, get eaten just the same way as the rest of that line. And Jason Kelsey, our center. He was getting. There was 2, all-pro linemen on that line that were still getting eaten the same way. So I don't want to, we can obviously we don't want to jump and say they're the best ever, because there was some pieces missing on that line, but there was some pieces there, and those pieces were getting eaten too. So I think we're pretty good out there.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. 100%. We said it before. You got to win the battles that you're supposed to. I don't. If we would have come out and we would have just stunk it up and didn't get any pressure and didn't get any sacks or anything, it would have been like, seriously, against this offensive line you couldn't do anything. So it's like one way or the other, you're gonna catch flack from whoever it might be. Leading receiving tight end for the Cardinals this past week, Dan Arnold. A whopping 2 targets, 2 catches, and 21 yards. Been in the league since 2018. So, yeah, I don't think we have to worry about the tight ends this week. It's just going to be Hopkins and Christian Kirk, Fitz chasing around Kyler Murray. But
Kenyon
yeah, I
Drake,
mean,
and not to get too far into the preview, they got some weapons. And one more thing that I want to talk about as well before we, kind of start looking too forward to the future is our offensive line. And they did have some
yeah,
problems early, and I want to say
yeah.
primarily that left side. I don't know if it was just miscommunications, but there was some guys running free or just need to dust some rust off or bust some dust off the old shelf as far as the protection game there. But we were getting eaten up early. It seems like it calmed down. It did get better throughout the game, but they also lost pieces throughout the game as they lost two defenders as well. So I don't know if one was one or the other as far as that goes. So something we want to be able to celebrate what we did do well, but we also want to have things that we need to work on. And I think that you nailed them both. That the tight end coverage there, and the communication in that secondary, and I think some of that offensive line help and that communication needs some work as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. One of the positive things was when Jerron Christian gave up that sack fumble, he jumped right on the ball. So hey, if you're gonna do that, you might as well help out a little bit. If you're gonna give up that sack fumble, you might as well jump back on the ball.
It's not like in Madden when guys give up sacks in Madden, the lineman just goes into some animation like this where he's like turn around and sack, get the ball. Yeah, so thank you for John Christian for not being like your little Madden bot.
Yeah, absolutely, no doubt. Right on, man. Well, like I said, these videos or these podcasts are not gonna be a little bit shorter than our preseason ones. A little recap here on Mondays.
So we're getting two of them. We're doing two of them a week now, so we'll be about the same length.
Same length, just split it up a little bit. Your Monday drive home, your Friday drive home, something like that. Getting ready for the weekend. This will be ready for you. But yeah, man, I'm excited. We're gonna celebrate this 1-0 for the next 5-6 days, and then get ready for Arizona, because it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be a good game. We saw, like you said, what they just did to a Super Bowl defense.
All right, I also want you to give me your offensive defensive player of the week, and I'll do the same.
Okay, my offensive player of the week. I'm gonna go with Logan Thomas. Got some key first downs for us. Scored the one receiving touchdown. I know Peyton Barber had 2 touchdowns, and that really put us up. But I really liked what Logan Thomas, what we saw from him. So I'll give it to him just based. I know the Peyton Barber touchdowns are probably bigger. One of them kind of put the icing on the cake, but we need the first one. We needed the first one just like we needed those last ones. You know what I mean? So I'm going to say Logan Thomas, my offensive player of the week. And defense, I'm going Ryan Kerrigan. He had the 1.5 sacks, he had 2 full sacks. He has a fumble recovery. He had a good play that's not going to show up in the scorebook where they were going to throw a little screen to Dallas Goedert. He's rushing and he realizes it and drops back into coverage. And I think we ended up getting a sack on that play too, because Carson Wentz had to pull it down and go for a second read. And him doing that, being able to use his brain, not using his athleticism, causes a sack. So although that doesn't get credit to him, probably should give him at least half the sack because of that. So Ryan Kerrigan, absolutely defensive player of the game there for me.
All right, I'm gonna roll off what you said. I don't think you can name a better, bigger defensive player. Ryan Kerrigan for me as well. Like you said, the 2 sacks, the fumble recovery, that play when when he snipped the screen out, and kind of put Carson Wentz in a pickle type of situation there, and I think he got sacked. And he just seemed like a different player. Ryan
he really
Kerrigan,
did. I agree. There's like a different energy.
It just seemed like it seemed like this like Ryan Kerrigan 2.0, like himself. Usually we like to call other players, like a different version of them, the 2.0, but it's like a hungrier version. It's a one that wants to be in Washington, I think. I think some of that, in a lot of ways, we're probably almost writing off in our minds as we get all these youthful players in there. But he's here to show us I ain't done. I'm still young. I'm not that old. I'm still young enough to go out there and do some things. And he really proved it. So my hats off to him. He gets my defensive player of the week. I think he might even be the defensive player of the week in the NFL. I don't know.
Yeah.
You probably have a lot more access to the stats of the defenders. I don't know anyone who had a better game than him individually. As far as the offensive one, I'm going to go a different way than you did. I'm going to say Dwayne Haskins. I'm going to go him.
Okay.
Based upon the leadership he showed, in the locker room, taking over and really for the whole team, and not to mention all the question marks that he's had, like we've talked about last week. No one's talking about Dwayne Haskins. No one's talking about Dwayne Haskins. No one's giving him any credit. He's
not in a positive light anyway. Nobody's talking about it in a positive light.
Exactly. And he went out there knowing all that. Still down 17-0, knowing probably all those people were like, I told you so, him at that point still in his mind, because we always carry that stuff with us. And still went out there and gave that speech, and then went out there and showed it. And not only did he talk the game up at halftime, he went out there and showed it in the second half. So Dwayne Haskins gets my offense and probably my player of the game this week as well. But yes, we got a victory, Ryan. We got a victory.
1,000%. Yeah. So I was looking through it. Yeah, I think Ryan Kerrigan's got to be defensive player of the week in the NFC. Nobody else came anywhere near that. The 2 sacks, the fumble recovery. I was trying to remember. Did he force the other fumble as well?
I think that was Chase Young. Chase Young forced the other one.
Was it okay? Was it Chase Young? Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like you said,
you can make an argument with Chase Young, 1.5 and a forced fumble too. I mean, you got 2 of them right there that both. I mean, it's crazy because in Madden they have the team of the week promo they do every week, and they basically choose an offensive master and a defensive master, and the rest are smaller cards, but all who had good weeks. And so in my mind, I'm like, it's got to be a Redskin or a Washington. It's got to be Ryan Kerrigan. He needs a card anyway. So I'll keep you updated. I'll let you know on Friday who they chose. So
yeah, for sure. Awesome. Right on. Well, like I said, the air is just fresher. Colors are brighter. Food tastes better.
Yes.
I mean, we're going to soak it in. We're just going to enjoy this while we can. I mean, I don't know. Got off to a good start. It didn't get off to a good start, finished well. But, hey, you got to take it one game at a time, one step at a time. And as it stands right now, we're 1-0, and you can't take that from us. So, again, you want to call us losers for celebrating a 1-0 victory? Think about all the teams out there that are crying because they're 0-1. Are they losers too?
Exactly.
Yep, they actually are because they're 0-1. We're 1-0. We're not losers. So, again, suck it.
Yes. And just, a fun little fact we talked about on texting yesterday, but we were winning 17-0 last year, and we came back and beat us. And this year we had to return the favor. They were up 17-0, and we came back. Hats off, boys. Let's keep it rolling.
Absolutely. Well, again, like, subscribe, rate, review. Find us on Apple Podcasts, obviously right here on YouTube. That's probably where you might be watching us right now. But follow all our social medias, Allies, BEL, Twitter, Facebook. Again, obviously YouTube, you're here. So go ahead, make sure you're giving us 5-star reviews in that Apple store. Tell your friends. I was telling Joe and I were talking this weekend, and there's been plenty of people, like quite a few people that aren't even Washington football fans that were coming up to me and were like, "Hey man, I've been watching those videos. They're pretty good. You guys are funny. Blah blah blah. You guys really sound like you know your stuff." And I was like, "Wow, like I had no idea you know we were watching. I appreciate it." One guy is a Cowboys fan. And he was kind of chirping me a little bit, saying, because he was watching the preview show, saying, I turned it off when he said you guys are going to be 3-0. And I was like, hey, you should have given it a chance because it evens out at the end. And he's like, yeah, no, I got to put my son down and then I'm going to, finish watching it. One of the parents that I coach his son in baseball, he was like, yeah, man, I was watching. I watched the last couple. Those are pretty good. So I appreciate y'all's support. We both appreciate your support.
Thank you. Yes. Very much.
Yeah. Tell your friends, tell your family, whether they're Washington football fans, whether they're just football fans. We can take 30 minutes out of the day, kind of let you know what that team out east is doing out in D.C. and, maybe give you a little a chuckle here and there and, a little info on what's going on that you may not know.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, so thank you all very much. And please subscribe if you're on YouTube. That's all I got, Ryan.
That's all I got, too. So until Friday, we'll have our Week 2 preview show. Again, we are 1-0. Joe, take us out. 1-0.
1-0. It just starts here. The story writes itself, guys. Its story starts now. Chapter 1 has been written. See you on Friday.